JoJo, and I'm a sophomore at King Kekalika High School. Today, I'll be sharing about circular and linear consumption. Understanding the difference between linear and circular consumption is key to making positive change and living sustainably. So, what's the difference? If you're like me, you might have pretty much no idea. I think it's easiest to think about visually. The concept is just what it sounds like. Linear consumption has a start and an end, like a line, and circular consumption, instead of an end or items being disposed, the items are recycled or repurposed, reducing the waste. Often in this consumer-driven society, we are only shown the consumption or the using stage of the product. So today, we're comparing linear and circular consumption, figuring out which is better for our planet. So, linear consumption. To best illustrate this, close your eyes and pick your favorite item of clothing from your closet. As an example, I'm choosing my favorite dress. The dress was made in a factory by workers who were not paid sufficiently for their labor. It was then shipped to me using oil and energy over the sea, and I drove it to buy it in a store for cheap. I wore it only for a couple months till it ripped, and I threw it in the trash. Eventually, it ended up in a landfill. Many items in our possession live lives such as these. This is an example of linear consumption. Linear consumption goes through a process of extraction, production, distribution, consumption, and disposal, or taking, making, using, and wasting. The cons of linear consumption are vast and have lasting negative effects, most notably the impact on our environment. The fashion industry alone is responsible for 10% of global carbon emissions, which is a huge amount for a single industry. That's more than 85% of textiles produced ending up in landfills. Unfortunately, many of the things produced using these linear systems extract resources and create waste. This is an obvious problem on a planet with finite resources. This is where circular consumption comes into play. Circular consumption reduces the vast impact on our Earth's environment. Instead of linear system of resources being taken away from the Earth, and in the end, most of them being wasted and thrown away, the products are repurposed, thus restarting the cycle and creating new products without wasting the resources used to make them in the first place. Waste is eliminated in circular consumption. The shift from linear to circular consumption is crucial in creating a sustainable lifestyle and economy.
Hi, my name is Julia Paulman. I'm a sophomore at King Kekalika High School, and I'll be sharing about greenwashing and planned obsolescence. It is readily apparent that linear consumption is not a viable long-term option. 50 years ago, the average United States citizen consumed less than half of what they do now. Modern consumerism was designed by large corporations in order to market their goods. After World War II, shifting what was normal consumption was a mission of corporations working alongside the government, and their mission statement came to be to make consumption our way of life. In 1955, Victor Lobau said that the American economy's purpose is to create more consumer goods. Companies use a few different marketing strategies in order to sell their products that can be particularly harmful to the environment. These include planned obsolescence and greenwashing. Planned obsolescence can be broken down into two categories: obsolescence of function and obsolescence of desire. One tactic used by many companies is to make the things that they produce low quality and breakable in order to force the consumer to keep buying the same thing over and over, allowing the company to make more money. This is a form of obsolescence of function. The media has also perpetuated the cycle of consumption by the use of trends. Trends often change, and this causes many garments that are produced to no longer seem wearable in a year or less. As new trends come, old clothes that may still be relatively new or in good condition are seen as less desirable, motivating the consumer to buy new ones. This is a form of obsolescence of desirability. Greenwashing is when companies mislead their consumers that their goods are sustainable or green when this is often not the case. As more and more people become aware of their own consumer habits, they will tend to gravitate towards more eco-friendly options. One example I have personally experienced is when I was at Target and I saw a tag on a shirt saying 100% post-consumer recycled materials. But when I read closer, the fine print said that the only thing made from recycled materials was the care tag, not the garment itself. The company tries to mislead the consumer into making decisions that benefit them and harm the earth under the false pretenses of doing good. Greenwashing affects not only clothes, but to-go containers claiming to be biodegradable and other eco-home goods as well. As a consumer, you have the power to evaluate your choices and make informed decisions when it comes to your consumption.
Aloha, my name is Mila Kehano, and I'm a senior at Kamehameha Schools Maui. I'll be sharing some information about sustainable brands and alternatives to overconsumption like thrift shopping, buying less, or only what you need. Now that we know about the circular economy and some of the marketing techniques used, let's learn more about how we can make conscientious decisions about what we consume. Each time we shop, we are voting with our wallets, and there are so many ways to shop and live sustainably. You may be asking yourself, what makes a brand ethical and sustainable? Here are a few things we should consider. First off, working conditions. While consumers become more aware, they find themselves asking companies to be more transparent about the working conditions and wages in their factories. For example, Patagonia committed themselves to a standard called a transparency pledge. The pledge requires the company to share their names, location, number of employees, and hours they've worked. And other companies have implemented this pledge as well. Now, let's move on to materials. Materials such as polyester or organic cotton are used in clothing products. Polyester is a synthetic fabric that takes 200 years to break down. Most companies use organic cotton. The process to create organic cotton is extremely water intensive. It takes 2,000 liters of water required for only one pair of jeans. Some alternatives include linen, tencel, and hemp. All are biodegradable and good materials. Next, let's cover packaging. Being aware of what materials companies use to package their products is also important. Supporting companies that use less plastic in their packaging overall reduces the environmental impact and ecological footprint. Last but not least, our final topic, brand certification. Checking for brand certification is another way to ensure you're supporting a company that strives to be sustainable. Now that we covered this first section, let's move on to our solutions. First off, I'm going to go over what we've learned so far. An ethical brand is one whose materials are natural and sustainable, companies give fair wages and hours to their employees, and their brand is certified. This almost always means the product is of high quality, and as consumers, we'll feel the need to buy less because the quality of the product is so much more. There are so many examples of sustainable brands us consumers can invest in. Let's move on to our next topic, thrift stores. Another way we can shop sustainably is by thrifting or purchasing secondhand products. Shopping secondhand is great for the environment. Statistics show that 84% of all unwanted clothes end up in the landfills. Ideally, we should be buying less, and to buy less means to donate and throw away less, which leads me into my third and final point, which is minimalism. If you've researched zero waste lifestyle, you might have heard of minimalism. The philosophy is about getting rid of excess stuff and living life based on experience rather than worldly possession. Minimalism saves us the time, saves us the money, and ultimately gives us freedom. And that about covers it. Thank you so much.
Aloha, my name is Asia Leonard Tiguero. I am a junior at Baldwin High School, and I want to talk to you about a few more solutions to become more environmentally conscious when consuming products. Repairing or repurposing. Before tossing an item or piece of clothing, ask yourself the question, can I repair it or repurpose it? Valuable skills like sewing will come in handy since lengthening the life of our clothing from 1 to 2 years actually decreases their carbon footprint by 24%. So it does have an environmental effect. Many items can be repurposed. Take for example an old shirt or dress. You can cut it up into smaller pieces and convert it into a dishcloth or a reusable paper towel. If you don't have the use for these items, consider donating. Donating is a great way to help others and keep clothes out of the landfill. Borrowing from friends or neighbors. Thinking about buying a tool that you may only use once? A great suggestion is asking to borrow it. Even just asking a friend or a neighbor to borrow an item is a simple alternative instead of buying an item that may only be used once, but it took a lot of resources to make. It's a fun way to try new clothes and make connections. DIY. Ever considered making some of your own things, like furniture, clothing, candles? DIY projects like starting an at-home herb garden to cut down on grocery store runs, tin can lanterns, and paper bag baskets are all fun little ways to reduce unnecessary consumption. And DIYs like these are so easy to find all over the internet. The United States makes up 5% of the world's population, and we produce 30% of the world's waste. We need to start taking action now to reduce the amount of waste that each of us produces. and starting with watching our consumption amounts is a great step forward to a brighter and cleaner future.